Hello, Sturgeon colleagues. We are doing some learning together yet again. In this video, we are going to do some looking at strategies for creating effective instructional videos. And we'll talk about strategies on how to really maximize student learning as opposed to getting in the way of student learning. My name is Nikki Woodford. I am the coordinator of instructional and assistive technology in Sturgeon Public Schools. You can find me on Twitter. But really, if you have questions around things that are educational technology related, please feel free to contact me directly through email. And I'm always more than happy to provide support, to answer questions, or really just to problem solve with you together. Before we start taking a look at some strategies on how to create videos well, I want you to put yourself back in your classroom with a room full of kiddos. And whether you are imagining yourself as a student or imagining yourself as a teacher, I want you to consider all of the ways that students have the opportunity to interact with the curriculum and the content that you are trying to provide to them. So they will interact with it by listening to you, by hearing you talk about it. They will interact with it by talking with each other, their students, the other students and their peers. They will interact with it through visuals that you share with them, through videos that you share with them, posters around the room. There might also be text, so things that they read, whether they are handouts or, again, things around the room or on the projector. And then there'll be activities that they will do to interact with curriculum, whether they are up and about or moving, that kind of activity, or whether it is a manipulative or a practice or something like that. So think of all these things and all the things that really we as good teachers do to help our kiddos learn. And I want you to think about how, as we move to kind of online instruction and creating instructional videos and trying to encourage really deep learning with our kiddos, that we want to bring those strategies with us. We don't want to drop them because their kiddos aren't in front of us. We want to bring them with us. And so the strategies that we look at now are really just being mindful of all the things that we do with our teaching practice. We are just now incorporating them into this new way of providing content and curriculum and learning to our kiddos. So please humor me. We are going to actually start with strategy 8, because if I were to put this in order, we would get to strategy 8 and you'd be saying, Nikki, this is slightly ironic. And so I am acknowledging the irony and saying, okay, we will start with strategy 8. So the goal for when you create instructional content in video form is to keep your videos short, like 5 or 6 minutes short. Research is certainly not only suggesting, but over and over and over saying that people, that the attention span of people, whether they are young or whether they are old, starts to wane after about 5 or 6 minutes. And so if you are creating video content that is 15, 25, 45 minutes long, I can guarantee that your students are not staying with you for 45 minutes. And so really you want to keep your snippets to 5 to 6 minutes. I want to think for yourself. If you had to watch a YouTube video on how to fix your fridge, would you pick, the 6-minute one or the 36-minute one? Well, probably the 6-minuter if they both do the same thing. And so really keep it short and sweet. Now you'll probably say, yeah, but my lesson will take longer. I'm like, yeah, absolutely your lesson will take longer. But you could structure your lesson through a series of slides and pull your video snippets one into each slide. And I'll even show you some examples of that so that your lesson can still be longer. You can still have a full lesson, but it's not that the video content is that. And so you're just actually giving the kids breaks and different ways of interacting with the content that isn't always just straight video. So keep it short. And you can laugh at me at the end. Strategy number 1 is make sure that you're providing the explicit connection between what you learned before and what you're going to learn now. We do that with our kiddos. Absolutely. We say, yesterday we talked about this. And today we're going to move on and talk about this. And so you're making that explicit connection for them and drawing on previous knowledge and identifying for them which previous knowledge. And you need to do that in video form as well, because otherwise you are expecting them to do that independently. And then that means that you can't guarantee they're drawing on the right previous knowledge. So provide that explicit connection for them. And it could just be a short little 1 minute clip in a slide saying, yesterday we talked about this, and this is what you need to know. And now this is the part we're going to extend on, and this is the outcome we're going to take a look at today. So, but just um, keep the continuity going. And so here would be an example. So I have a slide that shows in the video above, I will explain how what we learned yesterday will connect to what we will discuss today. If you're having a hard time from last lesson, rewatch here. So in this one slide, I'm not only creating the connection between past and today, but I am also giving the kids an opportunity to go back to previous learning if they don't quite remember what it is. And so just giving them that access point. Oh, go. Okay, so here is the next strategy. When we think of multiple means of representation, and this is very much a universal design for learning concept. In other words, when we are providing curriculum learning to our kiddos, we want to give them multiple ways by which they can interact with it. Text, talking to them, visuals, video, interactives, all of these things. However, if you do all these things at the same time, that is actually impeding the learning process. So there is a threshold for how much the kids can handle of these multiple means at the same time. And so I would suggest to you pick 2 out of the 3. So if you are going to create an instructional video and you're going to have content on your screen, then give them either the text and a visual and then you stop talking. Or you give them a narration and a visual, but no text. So like I said, you are only giving them 2 out of the 3. If you give them 3 or more, it is too much. They are going to be paying more attention to the means by which you are giving it to them, as opposed to the actual content itself. So here's an example. If I were to talk over top of this, and I'm saying, here's the water cycle, there's a cycle happening, blah, 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 here are all the stages, you probably will not be able to attend to all 3 pieces. You'll be looking at the visual and trying to read the text and trying to listen to me, and you will actually not be paying attention to any content at all. But an alternative could be something like this. So here's a visual. I might ask, consider the weather outside right now. What stage in the cycle does it represent? And then I might stop and give you the space to think about that without overwhelming you with the means by which I'm representing the content. Okay. Here is strategy number 3. Oh, yeah, good, wonderful. And I did that on purpose. Strategy number 3 is eliminate the extras. So this is kind of an extension of strategy number 2. The pieces that are in here would be called seductive details. In other words, they are strategies and details I have included to hopefully interest you, to entertain you, to engage you. But what's happening is, while they might be entertaining, your focus is going to these details and not to the content. Okay? So sometimes we will provide stories for our kiddos. We might provide funny jokes or quotes or things like that. We provide animations on our screens or fun graphics like this one, or even sound bites. So hidden under here, there might be a podcast or a sound effect or background music or something. And again, much like strategy number 2, these extras, these seductive details for our kiddos are distracting from the content. So despite the fact that it might be aesthetically pleasing or interesting, the interest is actually going to the wrong thing. Okay, so if I were to fix this, I might, oh, and there's even something more, you missed it. I would probably eliminate this this, this, and maybe just keep it at now what you see. Okay. Move this out of the way. Oh, right. Here we go. Yep, yep, yep. Good. And actually, now that that's there, I would probably eliminate the animations as well that I neglected to. And so this is a little bit simpler. It may not be super exciting, but if it's too exciting, the kids don't pay attention to the content. Okay, strategy number 4. I am guilty, like 100% guilty of strategy number 4. Go slow, talk slow, give them space. If you talk too fast, they will not keep up with you. So talk slower than you think you need to, and you will hear me really focusing on slowing down this pace of my speech. Go slower than you think you need to, and you will find that the kids stay pace with you better. So if you have to put a little sticky on your computer or something, but talk slower than you think. Okay. The next one is provide verbal cues for your kiddos as well. So think of all the things that you are doing in your class to help guide the behavior. So things like when you're showing them a picture, kiddos, as you are looking at this picture, do you notice this? Or what detail do you observe here? So as you're creating your instructional videos, you want to provide those very same cues and then give the very same space that you do when you were in your classroom. So here are some examples. As you look at this graph, I want you to pay attention to, and then give them space to do that. Even further, be as direct as to say, I want you to press pause on the video so that you can answer this question. And it might be awkward for you to hold that silence for a moment, but it at least gives them the space to do exactly what you're asking them to do. And then lastly, be clear and say, if you are struggling to understand this concept, go back and rewatch again and perhaps even give them an additional strategy. So maybe it is, you can say, I want you to write down whenever you hear me talk about whatever it is. I want you to write down any vocabulary words that you don't know. I want you to record in the private comment section any questions that you have that I'm not able to answer in this video. So essentially, you are just directing their behavior just like you would in class. You're doing it here for them too. And it's all the more important here because they are navigating this more independently than they would have in the past. All right, strategy number 6 is please be sure that you're complementing your instructional videos with activities. In other words, remember in class, you didn't just say to them, here's your information, now here's the assessment. You gave them multiple, and continue to give them multiple ways to interact with this before any sort of summative assessment is required. So that could be that as you're giving them these instructional videos and this content, that you give them a note-taking strategy or a note-taking task to complete with the video and with the content. Perhaps you start creating a reflective journal. So, okay, kiddos, as you are watching this video, here's what I want you to jot down in your reflective journal. Here's a question I want you to answer in your journal. Or it could be a manipulative activity. So, for example, in a Google slide or in a Google drawing, you could create a manipulative where they have to then manipulate a graph. It could be a sort. It could be a compare and contrast, but they're manipulating pieces and things. Again, just to practice interacting with this new learning. It could be a collaborative activity. You could create, whether it's a back channel, it could be a conversation or a post in Google Classroom that you all want them to interact with. It could be that you suggest that all students meet in a Google Doc and you're just going to comment on different things or different questions and you'll do it together. It could also be having students locate examples. So you're talking about angles. Maybe you ask them, okay, now go take a camera or a tablet or a phone and go take 3 pictures of 3 right angles that you see in your house, and we'll upload them and we'll look at them together. And it could also just be some practice questions. So remember all the different ways that your kiddos interact with content in class. You want those same opportunities even more now than before. So it's not just, blah, here's the video. Now show me that you know it in an assessment. And then strategy 7, please remember to balance content with connection. Yes, our focus as teachers is curriculum, and it's supposed to be curriculum. However, your kids need to see you. Um, they will care less about content if they are not hearing from you and hearing that you still care about them and that they are still important to you, and you're checking in with them and you're telling them funny stories, and or you're choosing not to show a webcam on any video you create. Don't just show them content. They want to be connected to you now more than ever. And if they're not connected to you, if they're not interacting with you, and if they don't feel important to you, then the content becomes much less important. And so that they will lose the motivation to continue with their learning if really you're just throwing the learning and the content at them and not still maintaining a connection with them. Now more than ever, the relationships that you have with your students is more important than it ever was before. And so while we are having to adapt and pivot and try new things and use technology in ways that we may never have ever anticipated, know that the technology cannot replace you. It cannot. You are more important now than you ever were before. So please make sure that you balance the connection with your students with the content. It's not just, here's the content. And with that, I'm going to leave you to go create. Certainly, teachers, you are doing good work and you care about your kids. And we are transitioning and pivoting and adapting and learning and growing, and we're in this together. And the way that you have reimagined your role is nothing short of amazing. So keep up the good work. You are doing good work. And the way that you are showing your dedication and passion to your work is just, I am in awe of it. So keep it up. And with that, have a really great day, you guys.